Students, welcome in our history lecture. Today we are going to learn about chapter number 6. Name is Town, Traders and Craft Persons. So students, we will start our lesson. First of all, in the first point we are going to learn about administrative centers under Chola dynasty. During medieval period, there were towns dedicated to specific purposes. There were administrative towns, temple towns, commercial towns, port towns and many more. For example, Tanjavur, the capital of the Cholas, was an administrative town of medieval India. Let's discuss more about Tanjavur. Tanjavur was located on the banks Kaveri river. The town had a Rajarajeshwara temple constructed by an architect Kunjaramalan Rajaraja Perutachan. The name of the architect is carved on the temple wall. Here you can see in the picture image that temple wall. Inside the temple is a massive Shivlinga. These temples has mandapas or pavilions for holding court for issuing orders to their subordinates. These mandapas were used to organize king's court for issuing orders to his subordinates. The temples also consist of barracks for the army. The town has markets full of vendors of grain, spices, clothes and jewelry. The town gets its water supply from wells as well as tanks. There is a weaving community called Salia who belonged to Tanjavur and nearby town Uriyar. They produced clothes for flags to be used in the temple festival. They also produces fine cottons for the king and nobility and the coarse cotton for the masses. Few distance away there is another village is called the Savai Swami Malai. In Swami Malai, stapatis or sculptures made bronze idols, ornamental bell metal lamps, etc. So students, we will revise this point once again. Tanjavur was the capital of Cholas. The Kaveri river flows near the beautiful city. The Rajarajeshwara temple was built by King Rajaraja Chola. The name of the Kunjaramalam Rajaraja Perutachan is carved on the temple wall. Temple includes mandapas or pavilions for holding court for issuing orders to their subordinates. Few distance away at Swami Malai, stapatis makes bronze idols, ornamental bell metal lamps, etc. So I hope students you understood this first point very well. In the next point, we are going to learn about temple towns and pilgrimage centers. In medieval India, there were towns which developed around a temple and were called as a temple towns. Tanjavur, the capital of Chola kingdom, was one such a temple town. Let's discuss more features of temple towns and pilgrimage centers. Temple towns served as an important pattern for the development of cities. These were also very important to economy and society of the kingdom. Many temples were built by rulers to show their devotion towards various gods. The rulers gave huge land grants and money to perform rituals. Also, these grants were used to feed pilgrims and priests and for celebrating rituals. Even the pilgrims who visits there were asked to give donations to the temple. These wealth aided in financing trading and banking for the temple and was utilized efficiently. To fulfill the needs of temples and pilgrims, various workers, artists, and priests settled near the temples. These activities leads to the growth of the temple towns. Some of the temple towns are Kanchipuram and Madurai in Tamil Nadu, Tirupati in Andhra Pradesh, Billaswamin and Somnath. Slowly, these pilgrimage centers were developed into several townships. Examples of such towns are Vrindavan in the Uttar Pradesh and Tiruvalmalai in the Tamil Nadu. A classic example of this coexistence is Ajmer in Rajasthan, the capital of the Chauhan kings. Later, Ajmer became the sub-headquarters under the Mughals. During the 12th century, Khwaja Muinuddin Chishti, a Sufi Sant, shifted there who attracted devotees from all groups. Pushkar Lake near Ajmer is an attraction point for pilgrims since ancient times. So let's students, we will revise that point once again. You can write that notes in your notebook also. The temple towns services as an important pattern for the development of the cities. Many temples were built by rulers to show their devotion towards various gods. Rulers also supports temples by giving lands and money for performing rituals. To fulfill the needs of the temples and pilgrims, various workers, artists, and priests settled near the temples. Slowly, these pilgrimage centers were developed into several townships like Vrindavan and Tiruvannamalai. So, I hope students you understood this point very well. In the next point, we are going to learn about a network of small towns. During the 8th century, many important towns developed in India. These small towns were made up of large villages. Let's look at some of the features of these small towns. These villages had mandi in which the people from nearby villages sells their produce. Along with these mandis, there were hattas or market streets lined with the shop. These streets were used by different artisans too. You can see here that artisan of Kumhar. Then शुगर वाले, गुड़ बनाने वाले, तेल निकालने वाले, then mason. So like this all the peoples were there. Some travelled from town to town. People from other places came to towns to buy and sell goods. These goods included kapoor, saffron, betel nut and spices like a pepper. In latter times, zamindar built fortified places in or near the towns. These zamindars levied taxes on traders, artisans and articles of trade. Sometimes zamindars gave the rights to collect taxes to the local temples too. These rights were recorded in inscriptions and preserved till the date. A 10th century inscriptions from Rajasthan includes all the dues to be collected by the temple authorities. There were taxes on sugar, jaggery, dyes, thread, cotton, coconuts and other items. Also, there were taxes on traders, sellers of metal goods, on loads of grains, etc. So let's students, we will revise that point once again. The reference of the oldest towns emerging from large villages can be found during the 8th century. These villages had mandis or hattas in which the temple from nearby villages sell their produce. It had market street for different kinds of artisans such as potters, oil pressers, sugar makers, etc. The traders sell their products in the market. Some traders lived in the town while others came from nearby towns. The zamindar imposed taxes on traders, artisans, etc. These zamindars lived in or near these towns. So, I hope students you understood this point very well. In the next point, we are going to learn about big and small traders. In earlier times, there were no shopping malls and supermarkets where you can purchase all that you need. People moved from one place to another to sell their products. The Banjara traders moved from place to another place in groups which was known as caravan. Traders also formed associations that had a headman who was the most responsible person. For example, the horse traders formed association with the headman who negotiated with the warriors who brought horses. Traders formed associations to ensure their security and benefits. Many such associations were formed in South India from the 8th century. The most famous associations were the Manigramam and Nana Desi. They traded within the peninsular region and also with the Southeast Asia and China. Other communities like the Chettiars and the Marwari became the principal trading groups of India. The Gujarati traders like Hindu Baniyas and Muslim Bohras traded with the ports of Red Sea, Persia, Gulf, East Africa, etc. They sold spices and textiles in these ports and exchanged the brought various valuable items. The traders brought gold and ivory from Africa and spices, tin, Chinese blue pottery and silver from the Southeast Asia and China. The towns located on the west coast of India were home to foreign traders like the Arabs, Persians, Chinese, Jewish and others. The Indian spices and clothes sold in the Red Sea port were bought by Italian merchants. Later, the Italian merchants sold these products in European markets at high profits. Spices grown in a tropical climate like pepper, cinnamon, ginger become an important part of European cooking. Many people were also attracted to cotton clothes. The importance and need of such products made European traders travel India for trade. So, let students, we will revise those points once again. Banjaras were kind of traders who formed guilds and moved from one place to another. They formed guilds to protect their interests and they formed caravans to travel from one region to another. The Gujarati traders like Hindu Baniyas and Muslim Bohras exported textiles and spices in the ports of the Red Sea and Southeast Asia and China. The spices and clothes which were sold in the ports of the Red Sea were purchased by Italian traders. The demand for the Indian spices and clothes in the European market made Italian merchants visit India quite often. So, I hope students you understood this point also very well. Now, we will discuss about the crafts in the towns. There is not everything that machines can make. Look at the designs of these vases and bangles. The beautiful design on it could not be created by any machine. So that Bidriware and the Meenakari is the name of that design. Only skilled persons who know the technique could do it. These skilled persons are known as a craftsman. In earlier times, where there were no machines or technology, a society could not be imagined without craftsmen. Craftsmen were needed or for weaving clothes, constructing buildings, and making pottery. Let's take the example of medieval towns and try to understand the importance of crafts. There was a medieval town called Bidar. In the present days, it is a Karnataka. The craftspersons of Bidar were very famous for their designing work on copper and silver. So that kind of designing pattern came to know as Bidri. Apart from these, there were communities like Panchals or Vishwakarma. These communities include goldsmiths, bronzesmiths, blacksmiths, masons, and carpenters. They constructed palaces, buildings, tanks, and reservoirs. There was another community called Saliyar or Kaikolars. The Saliyar communities were weavers and often donated their earnings to the temple. In the latter years, every process of cloth making became a specialized craft. Cotton cleaning, spinning, dyeing. Okay, so let's students, we will revise these points. Middle Ages crafts were not hobbies or demonstration of art, but they are trades studied by the skilled craftsmen. Craftsmen of Bidar are famous for their inlay work in a copper and silver, and this work was known as Bidri. The Panchals or Vishwakarma communities were involved in the construction of palaces, buildings, tanks, and reservoirs. Weavers such as Salia or Kaikolars emerged as the prosperous communities, and they donated their earnings to the temples. The process of cloth making involves cotton cleaning, spinning, and dyeing, which becomes specialized and independent crafts. So, I hope students you learn that crafts in the towns.